our mission, which is to create an encyclopedia. Next, let's talk about every single person on the planet. This is something that's part of the vision statement. We're written by thousands of volunteers in many languages. The Wikipedia project is something that's inherently global. So although we have more than 2.8 million articles in English, which is the largest of the language version, this is less than 20% of the total work in Wikipedia. A few years ago, I would say that this is less than 1/3 of the work, and now it's down to 20%. And I would expect in the next 5 to 10 years that the percentage of English will fall to around 10%. This is because all the other languages of the world are growing much faster than English is and becoming larger. I think English will continue to be the largest language for a very long time, at least until the Chinese get busy. I think this was the main message of the Olympic opening ceremony. That's what I learned from it. There's a lot of Chinese people who like to draw, so that was sort of fun. So we have 22 other languages with at least 100,000 articles. We have 82 languages with at least 10,000 articles. And we have now 165 languages with at least 1,000 articles. Well, 1,000 articles is not much of an encyclopedia. It's a very basic beginning. But I keep track of this number very carefully. It's one that I always watch because 1,000 entries, when we see 1,000 entries, we know that at that point there's normally 5 or so regular users, maybe another 20 or 30 who are occasional users. And this group begins to think of themselves as a community. They start thinking about, not I'm here lonely working on a website by myself, but they've made some friends and they've begun to think about how can we find more people to come and help in our language, Wikipedia? How can we get press coverage in the newspapers that are written in our language? And this is a real milestone for a lot of language Wikipedias. But even though we have all of those different languages, it's important to also think about how global is Wikipedia really? How are we distributed around the world? Well, as I mentioned, there are 2.8 million articles in English. We have over 500,000 in German, French, Polish, Italian, Japanese, and Dutch. We have 250,000 in Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, and Swedish. And as you can see, from all of these top languages, these are all European languages, if we include English as a European language originally, except for Japanese. Japanese is the one non-European language that's in the first rank of all Wikipedias. And so we're not seeing the full distribution all around the world. Just to give a little bit of the local context, this number is actually about 2 days out of date now. I just put this in here 2 days ago. 72,694 articles in the Bulgarian Wikipedia. Just as a side note, the Bulgarian Wikipedia community is making a really hard push to make it to 100,000. This is a big milestone for any Wikipedia. 100,000 is something to be really proud of. And last night at dinner, one of the well-known administrators, her birthday is in February, and I said, if you can make it to 100,000, we'll have a big party, and I'll come to your birthday party, and we'll celebrate 100,000. So hopefully lots of people will join in, and we'll try to get that done. We have, by way of comparison, 72,000 is obviously not one of the largest projects, but when you look at how many people speak Bulgarian, which is around 8 million, compare this to Spanish, which has 443,000, but they have 400 million native speakers. And so Bulgarian is actually quite successful Wikipedia based on the number of people who speak the language. When I think about the factors that give rise to a successful language in Wikipedia, Hindi is a very interesting example to take a look at. Hindi has 208 million speakers. This is the most common language in India. But yet they only have around 25,000 articles. Well, why is that? Well, it has to do with rates of literacy. Hindi speakers have a very high rate of not being able to read and write. So obviously, if you can't read and write, you can't help in Wikipedia. Lots of people who can read and write but don't have access to the internet, or if they do have access, they only have slow dial-up access. They don't have broadband internet access. And so this restricts the growth of Wikipedia. There's one other kind of amusing factor that I like to notice, which is when you look at some of the languages like Swedish, there are only 12 million people speaking Swedish, and there's a similar number of people speaking Dutch. And so how is it that the Dutch, for example, have a bigger Wikipedia than the Spaniards? I think it has to do with the weather. go for a stroll. In Sweden, there's nothing to do in the winter. Very cold. So it's only a joke, but I look at the numbers and sometimes I wonder. So as I mentioned, this is the homepage of Bulgarian Wikipedia. Actually, this has a slightly newer number. It's 72,836. So if we look in, oops, I messed up here. 836 from 694. So since 2 days ago, they've already written more than 100 new entries in Wikipedia. So yeah, people are very busy. It's growing very quickly. But altogether now, Wikipedia is the largest encyclopedia in history. We have more than 2 billion words, over 11 million articles, and altogether we're in over 250 different languages. I only count the smaller number of languages that have at least 1,000 articles, but it's important to realize that even now we have languages with only 30, 50, or 100 articles that are growing, although at a very low rate because they haven't really clicked as communities yet. Well, how popular is Wikipedia? Well, obviously it seems to be popular in this room, but according to Alexa, Wikipedia is now the 5th most popular website in Germany, the 9th most popular in the US, the 10th most popular in India, the 10th most popular in Japan, and this one is one that I always find interesting. They're the 11th most popular website in Iran. People have this idea of Iran as being the kind of place that wouldn't necessarily embrace the kind of enlightenment values that Wikipedia represents, but in fact, ordinary people in Iran love Wikipedia just like everywhere else. The Farsi language community, they're very good group of people. I've met a few of them, and they're just like anybody else. They love looking in Wikipedia, and they're interested in science and history and all these things, and they're really trying to make a really great encyclopedia too. So it really is a phenomenon that cuts across many different cultures. So altogether now, we're the 4th most popular website worldwide. The other ones here are Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, then the Wikimedia Foundation, including all of our other projects, AOL, and then Facebook. I actually think that Facebook will probably pass us in the next few months. They've been growing at a really astounding rate. In terms of the number of people using Facebook, it's really quite phenomenal. So what's interesting about this, when I compare to all these other things, and people imagine what must the organization look like? What does Wikipedia look like when we think about the non-profit organization behind it? And people always imagine that it must be something like the Google campus in California. 12 buildings with a few thousand people running around, very large company. But in fact, this is really not true. The Wikimedia Foundation is the charity that runs Wikipedia. And if we consider this picture to be a picture of the maybe 100,000 active volunteers worldwide, the staff of, well, this slide's out of date, we have 25 people now. The staff of 25 is a very small portion of it. We're actually a very small charity organization, and really all of the real work is done by volunteers. And this is something that's very important. I have a little video now. You know what, I forgot to ask for sound, so I don't think we're going to be able to do this. Well, we'll just watch it and I'll pretend to be people involved here. I'll just show a little bit of this and we'll skip to the next slide. This is the office in San Francisco. That's the whole office. That's not just one room. That's the entire office. And we just have a very small staff, and in this video they're talking about how their role is really just to support the community. They're there to keep the servers running, they're there to do public outreach, to do communications, to do software development, but it's really nothing like a big company. It's